Yeah.
I
It's like,
I
oh,
just brought it up now, and it says waiting for Kins and Key Games.
cool. It should be live now. If you want to double check it, we can check it on a few sources here just to make sure. Um, but hello, everyone. We should be live. Let us know if you are here, and if you can hear us, see us. Looks like it's on my screen and good to go. So unless anybody tells us otherwise, we'll jump into it. But we're so excited to have Ian O'Toole with us tonight or tomorrow, if you are where Ian is located. And yeah, so Ian did the graphic design and art for Galactic Cruise, and we are excited to talk to him tonight about kind of the process of working on Galactic Cruise, kind of dig into that a little bit, and then just kind of pick his brain about art and art design and games in general as well. And so, yeah, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. So yeah, so before we get into some specific questions about Galactic Cruise, would love to just kind of hear how you got into board games and maybe specifically how you then kind of pivoted into doing art for games. I assume after you were already kind of into playing board games.
Yeah. I started, so I'm Irish and I live in Australia now. So a little after we moved to Australia, I started playing board games as a way of connecting with other adults and, making new friends. And fell into it pretty hard, as I think we all did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been an illustrator and a graphic designer for years and years and years, mostly working on corporate work. And about 10, 11 years ago now, I started working for myself. And as a way of sort of diversifying my client base and also just as a bit of a lark, because I thought it would be fun, I started poking around and on Board Game Geek and looking for work that way. And I got some bites, some fairly lucky by chance things. I met Martin Wallace at a PAX Australia and ended up doing a game for him. I emailed Fatal Lacerda and struck up a conversation with him, which led to 10 years of
Right.
of
That
collaboration.
was a good cold email there.
Yeah.
It really was, and it
Yeah.
was literally a cold email. And it just escalated so quickly that it's been my full-time job now for a decade.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously, when we came on the scene, you were uh, not a newbie on the block. You were probably one of the most, if not the most, like well-known, sought-after artists. So we get this question a lot. So I'll get it from your perspective. What made you say yes to us, a bunch of first-time kind of debut project? Yeah, people are like, how did you get Ian O'Toole? So now I'm going to ask you, Ian O'Toole, how did we get you?
How did you
Or
get
how,
there?
what made you say yes?
Um, it's a bunch of factors, honestly. One is so I do get a bunch of requests from first-time designers and things, and um, one of the strongest factors, honestly, is you guys had put the work in and had done the homework, and you had done. It was pretty obvious straight away once I looked into the project that you had already done a lot of community building. You'd done a lot of play testing. It was pretty obvious that you were serious about it. And I get a lot of requests where maybe that's not so much the case, and
Mm.
um, so that definitely stood you guys apart from a lot of other first-time designers. Just the sheer hours you'd put into it, basically, and how seriously that you were taking it. Another is that you guys kind of came to me via Shem Phillips. So a referral is always a good thing. Always helps. I'm not sure how that came about, but it did.
Yeah, that's the side of the story that we
um,
often talk about is,
right.
with Shiv. So yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
first step to
I,
Ian is you have to get Shem. So
Yeah.
it's a first step.
And and honestly, another couple of factors is you weren't looking for it in 2 months' time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, honestly, you probably were, but you were willing to, you know, um, to have to be more flexible on the schedule.
Mm.
Um, and then just on top of that, I play tested the game with you guys a few times, and again, then it became apparent that you'd actually designed something that worked and was exciting. And the theme, honestly, the theme of the game was interesting. If all of those things had been true that I talked about, but your theme was very, very close to, let's say, a game that I'd already worked on, I would have been far less um, enthused
Mm.
about it. So it's a whole bunch of things, really. Yeah.
Great. One of the things that we like to ask a lot of people, we've talked amongst ourselves about it. Last Kickstarter, we had a big poll narrowing down everyone's favorite piece of art from Galactic Cruise, or at least segments specifically. But we don't know what's Ian's favorite piece of art
Mm.
from Galactic Cruise.
Um, wow. So from the game itself, the cover is my favorite. If we're talking segments, it's probably the robot arena, I think.
Mm. That's a
Nice.
great one.
I would say it's
Yeah.
probably that one. Yeah.
I've been using that one a lot recently because we've been doing contests. Like there's a contest on Board Game Geek right now, to enter win a copy of Galactic Cruise or the expansion, and I use the
Right.
robots fighting to it's a
Okay.
great art from
For a
the game
contest.
represents
Yeah, yeah,
trying to win. So yeah, I've been
yeah.
using it a lot recently.
Yeah. I put that in the 2-player section of the rulebook as
Mhm.
well, because it was like a
Right.
dual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like
Yeah.
a piece of art
Yeah.
we use and reuse in a lot of like marketing and one-off because it's such a striking piece. Um, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to the cover, I know you said you liked the cover. Of course, that was the first thing that we got to see of Galactic Cruise and that we got to show to people. If I recall correctly, I remember seeing you post, maybe it was on Instagram or somewhere, like a couple of rough sketches, but before the cover kind of came to life. Would you want to maybe talk about that process? Because I know we didn't plan to do that, but I'd love to hear kind of how you approach like a cover of a board game, like writing it out. Do you sketch it out? How did you get kind of that 3 tier level on the cover of Galactic Cruise?
Um. Yeah. So it's a lot of notebook work, just sketching with pen in a notebook. At the very start. I tend not to think about it a whole lot before I get to that stage,
Mm.
because usually if I get an idea before that, once I sketch it out, I realize that idea doesn't work. And I also like to discover things through the process. Like that's the exciting part for me is when things, when I sat down to work on Galactic Cruise, I had no idea that the cover would end up like it did.
Mm.
So I try and sort of maintain that level of chance um, through each stage of the process. So um, I sketch a lot, but I don't get very tight on the sketches. I think if you go back to my Instagram and you find that sketch, you'll see that it's a very, very rough sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once I kind of hit the kernel of an idea, then I leave that stage of the process behind and I move into the next stage. Because again, I want to maintain a level of uncertainty.
Mm.
So at that stage, I'm not even thinking about colors or rendering style or anything like that. If you look at that sketch, it's really just the compositional elements. The concept is dividing the box into the sort of 3 stages that you go through in the game,
Mm.
um, of planning, building, and then launching. And that's like a mixture between a conceptual idea and then a compositional idea, and that's enough to kind of make me go, I think this will work. I think I can make this work.
Right.
And then it's just I move like directly into not final rendering, but like working on layouts, working on the actual measurements of the box and things like that. And then I just try and sort of explore stylistically different avenues as I go, basically. So I try and keep it, you know, I try not to nail down the style too early. It's I like to keep it quite. I like to explore as I work through it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just like you said, just kind of giving yourself like the creative freedom for the next step, like leaving that space, I think is really cool. I feel like we
Yeah.
kind of do that in like designing games, right? It's like, you have an idea or you want to get it down or get it onto TTS. There's a lot of times where like I'm thinking about
Right.
something, but I don't really do it. Like I kind of have an idea in my mind, but I'm like, I'm not really
Yep.
going to think about it or pursue it. I'm going to play it with the guys and then we'll discuss it after to see how that might have
That's
worked
true.
or, so yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's great.
Yeah, it's the prototype and playtest early
Right.
of art,
Exactly.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's great. Um, so yeah, so speaking of just playtesting and playing games, what are some of your current favorites that you've been playing?
Oh wow, I'm super out of touch with games that are coming out at the moment. I just have not had any time recently. But favorites like Gaia Project is probably my favorite game. I'm a big fan of lots of games. So midweight Euros is usually my sort of sweet spot. Midweight to slightly heavier Euros, but I play everything. I play a lot of like card games and little two-player abstract games, and so favorites would be Gaia Project, Race for the Galaxy. I love a lot of Feld games. Big fan of Bonfire.
Oh, nice. That's one I have it. It's still in Shrink. I've not yet played it. That's one
I love it. With two players, it's perfect.
Mm.
I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't do four, but
Yeah.
I'd do three, but two players, it's ideal. I play a lot of my games two players. Glory to Rome is an old favorite of mine. That's a long-standing favorite. I'm pretty varied. I love party games. Like I was at a convention not so long ago, and we just played Ito for the whole thing. We just played it over and over again, and it was the best thing. So yeah, I'm pretty omnivorous when it comes to games.
Nice. Yeah, I think Sausage Sizzle comes out at every convention we go to.
Yeah.
Just like because it's such a such a silly fun game, but it's like we enjoy it. We have such a blast every time we play it.
It's a good good convention game.
Yeah.
We heard you were basically responsible for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, my group enjoys it so much that I got someone to find the rights for it so we could republish it. It's like the world needs this game.
Yeah, it worked and people are loving it. Yeah, it's great.
So good. So a question that came in from one of our Kickstarter backers, and it kind of ties in with one that I just saw pop up in the live chat here. So the community question just said, your style of art is so unique. What initially inspired your style of artwork? And someone in the chat here just said, Ian, I love how you can handle everything from Art Nouveau to cute animals in a newsroom to futuristic rocket ships. You always have an incredibly intricate style and keen eye for detail. Do you find it amusing that your art has grown to be associated with an incredibly complex and intricate games as intricate as your art? So for anyone who's not played Sausage Sizzle, it is not a very intricate game, but it is brilliant. So I mean, there's maybe a couple of questions in there, but
I definitely have become associated with heavier Euro games, which I enjoy. Like I can really bring to bear my sort of graphic design expertise on those games, and it works. My problem solving part of my brain really enjoys those challenges. Galactic Cruise obviously was being one of those. But I also I very rarely get to do it, but I also really like working on just a little. There's something very refreshing about a game that I can start and finish in a month. So I don't know. Most of my games take considerably longer than that. So yeah, I would be very happy to do more smaller games if I can find the time.
Well, that's almost a perfect segue to our next question that we have from the community, which is how much time does it take for you to create the art of a game like Galactic Cruise? How much work do you have to put into it?
A bunch. Um,
Like it's easy.
uh,
I can do it.
yeah.
No problem.
Well, you guys check my figures on this. I believe Galactic Cruise ran from March 2023 to about January 2025.
And that
Does
sounds right.
does that figure in with you? I think that's about right. So that would have been from sort of
Yeah.
our initial playtesting and all that sort of initial meetings, maybe even a little before that.
Yeah, I think before that. Yeah.
Until the last nail in the coffin, as it was.
Yeah.
Post campaign, um, I think the welcome pack maybe was the last thing that we did, or maybe some pieces like that. So I mean that's almost 2 years.
Yeah. Very close.
But you're not solely working on one thing at a time. Like it's not like you did nothing else during those 2 years. Because
No.
you put out way too many games for that to be true.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And it is one of the major sort of challenges that I have with working on such large projects, and especially crowdfunding projects, because they do tend to increase in scope, as the project goes along. These things are very difficult to sort of schedule ahead of time accurately. And then, over the last few years, we've had a fairly tumultuous time in general, without going into details, that have, affected the board game industry for many reasons. So, the 2 years is a long time. I think under normal circumstances that would have been, a bit shorter. But these games take a long time. There's lots of iterations that we go through. There's a whole graphic design step, and then a playtesting step of that, and then obviously there's lots of illustration to be done. And this is, a base game plus 2 expansions, etc., etc. So yeah, it was a big project. So yeah, I mean, projects that I have go from anywhere from, like I said, a month on the small end, to 2 years thereabouts.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like with several projects that you're working on at a time. I'm curious to know like what does a day look like for you? Like is that like you kind of take this day for this project, or do you like to do a little bit here on this project today, a little bit here, or is it just very dependent on kind of what the publishers are needing, asking for?
It depends on where I am with each project. There are certain tasks in every project. Usually earlier on, when I'm making bigger decisions about UI and the graphic design, like the functional elements of the game, which is very focused work, and I need to like hold all the rules of the game in my head at the same time, which can be difficult when you're working on multiple big games. So if I'm doing that sort of work, like if I'm laying out the board for Galactic Cruise, for instance, or trying to come up with the iconography system or whatever, I tend to want to immerse myself in that sort of work. So I'll tend to try and block out, a few solid days where that's all I'm doing, as much as possible. That's all I'm doing. But if we're on the tail end of it and it's, I've got 30 illustrations to do, that's more, I can just put on music and, work away on that sort of stuff. It's not so much active thinking at that point.
Yep.
Then I can blend that with other work. Sometimes it's a mix of both things. So it really depends. There's definitely parts that need like super focus, and then there's parts that are more a little bit more relaxed. So.
Nice. Now, are there any specific parts of that kind of those different processes that you enjoy the most? Like I know you said earlier you loved the thinking of coming up with like the icons and the layout and like that kind of heavier game side of that. So it's like, is that you feel like that might be your favorite, or?
Honestly, I enjoy the mix the most
Mm.
because my brain gets really tired after a while, and I just want to draw some spaceships and things.
Yeah,
So
right.
I think if I was doing one or the other all the time, it would probably drive me insane, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I'm really lucky to be able to do both, so I can
Right.
mix and match a little bit. And that kind of comes back to the, I'd like to work on more smaller games as well. Like having that variety of pace and scale is kind of refreshing for me.
Yeah, no,
And,
that
and
makes
also
sense.
part of the reason why I jump around in styles a lot. Because I don't just want to, I can't just do the same thing over and over again.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah, that makes sense. Now I know we've got some people watching, so if feel free to drop a question if you want. We've got a few more that we're gonna hit, but if you have any you'd like us to ask in along the way, feel free to let us know. But yeah, speaking of just putting on music and enjoying drawing spaceships, do you think you would ever get in one if you ever had the chance to take a trip to space?
Absolutely not. No, no. I've watched the movie Gravity too many times.
Mm.
That's a great
No,
movie.
it is a great movie. And I watch a lot of movies, and like 2001, and no, I mean, I love roller coasters and things like that. So it's not really the thrill that wouldn't bother me. But I'm not a fan of being deep under the ocean, for
Mm.
instance. So I'd imagine
Mm.
deep space would be that times,
Right. Yeah.
amplified.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
think I would.
Now,
I don't think
what
I'd be
about
able to do it. Would you guys?
cruising? So
Oh man,
I would
yeah,
I've always been a fan of like space travel, and like I love the space movies and TV shows. So it's like I would do it under the circumstance that it's like been very successful and safe. You know, like planes now versus back when they first started kind of
sure.
thing, you know.
Yeah,
So if that was ever applicable, like I think like I would love to spend some time in space. I don't know about the other guys, but
yeah.
If there's a robot arena, then
yeah.
I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so what
yeah.
about the actual cruising on the ocean? Like, have you ever been on a just like an ocean
Um,
cruise?
I never have. I like being on boats, but I guess a cruise liner doesn't really feel like you're on a boat because of the scale. Maybe it does. I don't know. I've never been on one. Um, I really like to explore. I really enjoy solo travel. I haven't done it a lot, but I go to Essen every. I know that's not quite exploring travel, but I go to Essen every year. I like a lot of the travel that I do is solo. Um, and I really like a little bit of freedom when I travel, like to, go where I want and do what I want. So a cruise I might find a little bit restrictive. I don't know. But
Right.
yeah, I've never been on a cruise. So
Nice. Yeah, we're all big fans. Dennis especially. He's been on quite a few. He's
oh
actually
yeah,
going to
Yeah.
one in Germany, right? Right before Essen.
Yeah. Right before Essen. So this is going to be my first time even to Europe, going to
oh
Essen.
wow, okay,
So my wife and I are doing a 10-day Mediterranean cruise right before
Greek
Essen.
islands and yeah,
Yep.
I think
Greece,
that's
Italy, France, Spain. Yeah.
yeah. If I was gonna do a cruise, I would probably do something like that where it's a lot of different islands, and I days at sea I probably wouldn't be too into. I'd want to be visiting a lot of places all the time, I think. So Greek islands is a perfect place for that.
Very excited.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
little jealous of that he gets to enjoy that, but hey, we're going to Essen, so I can't complain. You know,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we're all going on the Dice Tower cruise
this
in
is true.
January.
Yeah,
So
January.
Oh right,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. Dennis has
Nice.
been on that a few times, and now Colt and I are going to get to go with all our families, so we're very excited to do that.
Yeah, great.
We did just have another question come in. They were asking, they said, has being in far western Australia made it more challenging to coordinate your art, or is remote easier with post COVID collaboration?
Um, I've never found it a challenge. I think the board game industry in general is quite global and it's never really been a problem. I mean, the biggest problem is sometimes I have to have a late or early meeting,
Mm-hmm.
because somebody is 12 hours behind me.
Right.
But that's not a big deal. Um, COVID didn't really change any of that for me personally. You know, this is how we do things anyway. So
Right.
you know, it really didn't affect me in that way at all. So no, it's always been that way. There's no particular challenges. Besides every now and then, I think as I said before,
Right.
time zones get a bit confusing.
Yeah.
But besides that, no, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, like unless you like lived, next door and were able to get together in person every day, there's not much of a
Right.
difference as being there versus an hour away or
An hour away, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same basically.
Yeah.
You know, more or less. But again, time zones aside,
Right.
it's more or less the same. Yeah.
So I know you. We talked a little bit at the start of this about kind of how you got into board games, into board game art. What advice would you have for someone who is trying to kind of break into board game art? Any advice for those like aspiring board game artists, or I guess artists in general, but maybe specifically board game art?
That is a broad question. So board game art specifically, I would
let's
say,
stick with that maybe as a specific then.
yeah, I would say talk to your peers. Find other people who are doing the same thing and make sure you're on the same page. Talk to people about contracts, things like that.
Mm.
Is really important. Feel free to talk to, any of the people that you would list as well-known board game artists. We all know each other. We all talk to each other. And I know that any of them, if you find them at a convention or anything, will be happy to answer questions and things like that. I would say if you can, if it's possible, go to conventions.
Yeah.
Whatever is around. You know, it doesn't have to be Gen Con, it doesn't have to be Essen, but wherever there are other designers. You know, again, this is a stroke of luck, but I met Martin Wallace at PAX Australia, and that's, I didn't go there expecting to do that. Conventions are just like everyone's on the same page. Everyone's talking about games, ideas for projects come out of, the most unexpected places. And you just meet people. I mean, in the same way that we said earlier that, a lucky email led to my collaboration with Fatal. That sort of stuff is way more likely to happen in person at a convention.
Right.
So if you can, go to conventions, talk to designers, meet other artists. It's people. It's a people industry. It's still small enough to be a people industry. I would say stay well away from generative AI. As a general rule, just don't, focus on your skills, focus on the fundamentals of what you need to be able to do these sort of things. If people take shortcuts, people know that, board game work is very specific. It's a very specific type of work. If you're a graphic designer or an illustrator or both, the work that you need to do for board games is not really like any other. It's not like video games. It's not like illustrating anything else really. It's very specific because of the way that people interact with the end product. So you need to develop those skills. You need to, and that's, and the other thing is, just play a bunch of games. That's for anyone who works in the industry at all. Designers, graphic designers, whatever. Play a bunch of games and analyze what you see. And when you're playing a game and people consistently make the same mistake, ask yourself, instead of getting annoyed at it, ask yourself, why are people making that same mistake over and over again? Like what's being done to mislead people or to confuse people?
That's great.
Well, we've got another question come in our chat here, and this is a good one. I like this one. Where does art stop and graphic design start? And how do you decide when function has to win over a pretty piece of art?
Easy question.
For me, for me the lines are pretty blurry sometimes. I don't tend to think in terms. Sometimes I do. There are some tasks that are very much graphic design tasks, and some tasks that are very much illustration tasks. You know, speaking in terms of Galactic Cruise, the iconography is a graphic design task. The segment illustrations are an illustration task.
Mhm.
But if we look at the box cover or the board, for instance, there's no real place where it's very clearly demarcated where we have one and the other. So my brain tends to think about them both in unison. You know, on the cover, the blending of the framework with the illustration and how that works is part of the whole. It's not like I drew the frame and then I was like, okay, what sort of picture am I going to put in here? You know, it's the whole thing is a cohesive whole. So the difference between the two, where one ends and one starts, can be very blurry for me. I will say though that the game should be, if you cannot play the game without an element, then at least some of that element is a graphic design task. You should be, if you strip all the illustration out of it, that all of the illustration that is only illustration, only performing the task of flavor and theme and setting and that sort of stuff. If you take all of that out, you should be able to fully still play the game from beginning to end. But if you take out something and now you can't play it, you've taken out a piece of graphic design. That's kind of how I tend to think about it.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that people love about your projects where you get to do both, is because you kind of do approach a lot of them together, you know, because they do play off of each other, and I think you do that so well, and so it makes the theme and the art come through while still having great function, right? Which is I think what the end consumer really enjoys, is getting something that looks great but the function, you know, is very well thought out, because a lot of games will, you know, sometimes lean more towards the other. But that, I think that's something you really nailed in Galactic Cruise, is like, it's very functional, but the art is outstanding. And so I think, you know, you got both on that.
There's a few things that contribute to that. One is that we play test the graphic design before we put any art. I say art, any illustration work over the top of it. So the graphic design sort of needs to be solid and functional, in that respect. And I've forgotten what the other factor is. I'll come back to it.
That's all right. All good. No, yeah. I think that was
it. Basically all comes down to playtesting, right? Because even, you know, as many games as I've done, as many of these types of games that I've worked on, I'll have an idea and I'll do something and I'll go, that's will work. And sometimes when you put it on the table, it just doesn't. Or people just draw comparisons between different elements that you just didn't see, or, you know, and it's always something that's like really obvious the second somebody does it and you go, damn it, you know.
right.
But you just don't know until you put it in front of people. So that's cannot underestimate the importance of that.
Yeah, that was a cool step in the process, because I remember, like, we had, everything was white. I think a lot of our playtesters, and we took it to conventions, like a lot of people remember the white version, you know, that was the graphic design, and you know, no art, just the design to make sure it was playable. And, you know, we did a few blind play tests with that, just to see what questions people had about the icons and all that. So yeah, very helpful. Cool. Well, I think we can probably wrap up there. Again, really appreciate having you to chat and answer questions, and hopefully a lot of people get a lot of value out of hearing the process of Galactic Cruise, because we got to experience it working with you, and it was great. So really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Well, we'll have a good night, and you can have a good morning, and we'll we'll talk to you later.